And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I'm J.C. Kenney. And folks, we are only 2 weeks away from St. Patrick's Day. So to get you prepared, we've got a wonderful guest with a perfect Irish name for you today. So, Sarah, I think it's time to get bookish.
Yes, that is a great way to cue up this episode, JC. We have got a delightful conversation in store for you folks this afternoon. We are very excited to welcome debut author, yay, debut,
Woo!
Jennifer O'Brien visiting us here at A Bookish Moment. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here with you both.
We have so many questions for you because not only is this your first novel, The Summer I Found You,
Yeah.
you are a design influencer who has really like grown this like wonderful brand around home renovation, and you took that love and passion and put it into your book. And folks who it's if you love HGTV and you love romance, this is the book
Yeah,
for you.
for
Um,
sure.
before we dive into talking about Dahlia's story, any chance that you can kind of give us a little bit of a overview of what got you interested in writing in the first place, and what made you decide to sit down and write your first novel?
Yeah, of course. So I've been writing my blog for about 15 years now, and I've always loved story. And, it's something, when I was traveling in the car, when my siblings were older and I was the youngest and I was the baby, I had a lot of time on my hands. So I would just, look out the window and think of all these different stories. My dad had a love of story as well in film. So it kind of started way back then, but to circle back to my blog, yeah, I founded City Farmhouse as a way to renovate my own home and show, the DIY steps and how I did things on a budget, because I certainly was. And then it really grew from there, the following and just the camaraderie of other bloggers and influencers. So it's been really a fun journey. I would say it was probably about 7 years ago during the big fixer-upper craze. There were a lot of bloggers and home design influencers that were jumping on the train of, let's buy a fixer-upper, and then they would chronicle, their journey in fixing up their homes. So I was really excited about this, and I really wanted that to be my story as well. I've always loved old homes and the stories they tell, and the creaks and the noises. And as we kind of dove further into it, the houses that we would go to see, because I did kind of talk my husband into maybe buying something small that we could use as a summer house in the summer, maybe out on the North Fork or in the Hamptons. But as we dove a little further into it, a lot of these houses needed a ton of work. And my husband isn't handy, and I'm more of a cosmetics girl. So we quickly realized that the budget would have to include a contractor. So, every time we would see a house, we would kind of jot down all the pros and cons and, a bit of a budget. And so on the drive home from the North Fork one afternoon, as I stared out the window, the sun was setting over the farms. It was so beautiful and picturesque. I thought to myself, maybe this is not, how my journey is supposed to go. It's great for all these other bloggers, but maybe this is not how my journey is supposed to go. So that metamorphosed into, well, if I can't buy one and fix one up, maybe I would write about one instead. And so I'm not even sure that was even easier, because it was a very long journey to publication. But that's how my writing journey started. It started with my blog City Farmhouse, and then evolved into writing fiction and writing this book, The Summer I Found You.
Oh, wow.
Well, congratulations. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's fantastic. So, since you teed it up, tell us a little bit about the summer I found you. Give us kind of maybe introduce us to the
Yeah.
characters, kind of what happens.
Well, I like to say that it's a Nancy Meyers meets HGTV Second Chance beach romance, where houses feel like characters and interiors come to life and secrets have secrets. So it is a romance between Noah and Dahlia, but there is a letter and a mystery to solve before the summer ends. So I just love that it's the romance, but it's the subplot of the mystery and it kind of brings it all together in this old house, fixing up the old house, peeling back the layers of mystery and the decades old secret that was buried with this family. So,
Well, if you haven't guessed, Jennifer, we are mystery lovers here. So
yeah, I did.
I'm wondering, how did the because you had told us how your real life inspired the this move to writing about renovating a home, but what brought you to write this like mystery element, and did you find that putting together this mystery was something that was a challenge, or was it something that just kind of flowed effortlessly through the process as part of Dahlia's story?
Yeah, it is something that kind of flowed once I had an idea, but I do tend to read romance that has a subplot of a mysterious element. And I really like that because it's something that keeps you turning the pages and you can't put the book down, you don't want to go to sleep because you want to know what happens next. And although, romance does have that, I just always have been drawn to stories where there is a subplot of mystery. And again, I love the undercurrent of an old house and, maybe something's buried, maybe something's, in the basement, maybe something's behind the wall. But it did evolve from this one particular house. We spend summers at my in-laws a lot in Southold. And on one, stroll along the beach one day, as I was looking at all these big grand houses that were built, in the early 1900s, my mind started to turn. And so I saw this, cedar shake house and then I couldn't get it out of my head. So again, on a drive home, because I love to think when I drive, I just started putting together this mystery of, okay, who would live there? What would the characters be like? And I've always been someone who has been drawn to generational stories. So I think it was all these bits and pieces of my life and the things that I've loved, and was thrown into the beginnings of this book. And then it basically took hold. And, I was like, wow, okay, this can happen and that can happen as any writer, right? You
Mhm.
kind of follow where it leads you. So it was really a fun process in that sense.
Excellent.
So, along that line, I've got a question for you. You said it took hold, the story took hold. Talk a little bit about that because I think that that's something that is exciting to hear,
Yeah.
and kind of share a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, this is my second book. My first book I wrote, and it's, sitting in a drawer, so to speak. Both are about houses. But I think as a writer, once you find a story that just feels organic or it feels personal, you have to tell it. You have to write it. You don't stop. It becomes obsessive. You have to finish this book. You have to write it to the best of your ability. And I think that's what I felt with this particular book is, I just felt like I had to honor these characters that I created in my mind and see it through, and honor the story and the past and the love, and this idea of found family within the story.
I would love to be able to dig in a little bit more to Dahlia and Noah. But first, what I'd like to do, Jennifer,
Yeah.
is welcome the folks that are joining us via chat. We've got folks saying hello for us. We've got Farmhouse Reader saying good afternoon. We've got a happy Tuesday from DHBA. We've got Regina the Southernista saying good afternoon, everyone. And then Susan is saying hello, all. Folks, if you have questions for Jennifer as we go through our conversation today, feel free to put them into the chat. I would love to know, how did Dahlia introduce herself to you? Because she is, she's kind of dealing with grief of her own. She's a
Yeah.
recently divorced woman who is kind of called to a family home that she has to clean up. Uh, how how did she make her way, or how did she was she fully formed when you met her? What was her story like?
No, she definitely wasn't, and it took some time to really dive into her character. But I've always loved second chance stories. I've always loved reinvention stories, maybe a second season, a second chance. And this was my chance to create a story around someone who really felt broken. She was a little broken, she was a little cynical, she was a little insecure, but she continually showed up for her family and for the people that she loved, and this was really her time to show up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of her inheriting this house, I think that was just my own longing to inherit an old house on the beach. And then the grief element, I've lost a lot of people at such a young age in my life, like my mother and my sister. So I almost wanted to honor them in a
Mm-hmm.
bit, because I just felt like they never got a second season or a second chance. So yeah, that's kind of how Dahlia came to be. I knew I wanted her to have a past that she was leaving that wasn't, ideal, and for her to grow into the person that she was meant to be all along. So
That's very beautiful. And
yeah,
I think it's also something that is very relatable to
yeah.
a lot of your readers. I know that in the book, which comes out on April 7th, so folks, you still have time to pre-order it after today's episode, that
Mhm.
a lot of the early reviews talk about how relatable Dahlia is and how wonderful Noah is. So could you
Yeah.
talk to us about creating I guess, creating an unproblematic male character?
Right, right. Well, I knew when I created Noah, I knew I wanted him to be capable. I wanted him to be on the younger side. And there is an age gap, so it's a reverse age gap. She's a bit older than him. But so he's in his late 20s. But I wanted him to feel like an old soul. So, the age wouldn't matter. I wanted him to feel capable. And, the thing that really brings them together is that she's never had a man in her life, because her parents died young, that really showed up for her and that really saw her, for her, and really wanted to get to know her and peel back the layers. So I knew that I wanted to make him, you know, similar in his nostalgic tendencies to hers. So in some ways they were opposite. Obviously, she was a bit of an outlier, losing her parents. She kind of created this, this guard. And he's been through things in his life as well. But he, on the other hand, is a reality TV star. He's a reality home renovation TV star. So he is beloved, and he likes being, in the limelight. He likes, talking to people. So they're a bit different in that sense. But the thing that really bonds them and tethers them together is this idea that they've both had these wounds from childhood, and their abandonment wounds from, obviously she has different ones than he does. But yeah, there's just this instant connection. Obviously, they're neither one are looking for any sort of relationship, but there is a connection, which evolves slightly fast. It's over 4 weeks. But again, they're tethered by similarities and their love for family and their love, for old houses. So it's really fun to see how their relationship evolves over the 4 weeks.
So, you know, one of the things that I'm hearing you talk as you tell us about the story and about Dahlia and Noah and the location, when I take some of that and then take what you told us about your background,
Yes,
um, it sounds like there's a lot of you in the book.
a
Um,
bit.
and
Yeah.
so, you know, do you consider this kind of autobiographical? Because I know with I think I can't speak for Sarah, but Sarah, I'll throw this out to you. A lot of people when they read my books, they'll say, "Man, Jim, that character, that's you." And I'm
Mhm.
saying, well, you know, if he's a good guy, sure, thank you, but it's not really. So, how can you talk about how you feel about these characters, Jennifer?
Sure. I mean, I think as a writer, we're always pulling in bits of our lives or bits of ourselves into different characters. I obviously the grief element is very similar to myself and Dahlia. Obviously, she has a different journey than I do. Um, Definitely have an art background, but hers is a little bit more curated than mine. But then, as far as the other characters go, there's just been so many, stories that have been passed down from generations, and I was always the one that was listening intently. So maybe a bits and pieces of my grandparents are in there and my aunts. But I will say a little fun fact about this book that is true. There's a Hollywood element, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's based off of my father, who worked and went to school in Hollywood in the 1950s. He went to USC on a scholarship, and then he worked at CBS Studios on weekends and at night, and he really wanted this film career. And he just loved film and stories. So, that's I think that part was passed down to me. But there is a Hollywood element, and, it's a little bit based off of my dad. So that was really fun, because he's no longer here, to throw that into the story. So,
I think that's so right with taking bits and pieces of ourselves
yeah.
and creating these characters that we might have been or we might have known or we could have been or grown up into. It's just such a the creation process is so magical in itself. And one thing that I am curious to maybe kind of get your insight on, Jennifer, is there's of course the romance aspect of this, but there's also this your love of old houses and renovation work. Can you tell us a little bit about the area that the book is set in, and about this house that you've created? Because the house itself becomes a character. So just tell us a little bit about this farmhouse in North Fork.
Sure. So the North Fork really, took hold of my heart, probably like 20 years ago. My in-laws live out there, and we've always taken our kids out there, every summer. And it's just such a peaceful, cathartic place. You feel like you've traveled back in time. They've got vineyards, they've got the farms, the farm stands, and the water. So it really makes for a very peaceful setting. And then I've included Shelter Island a bit, which is the ferry ride over. So it's, very steeped in setting, which I love just because I love that area so much. And the house is really all my imagination. Obviously, I would have loved to inherit an old house. And yeah, it just really came to be in my head through looking on Pinterest and, creating these mood boards of what I wanted the interior to feel like. I really wanted it to feel like you were stepping into a Nancy Meyers movie. I wanted it to have that aesthetic because that's really what the aesthetic of my blog is and my home. And most of the DIY projects that I do, it's really based on this casual coastal vibe. So that's a little bit about the setting. It's just such an extraordinary place, and I really wanted to bring it to life for readers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it
So,
sounds dreamy.
yeah,
You have to go.
I've got to ask, did you draw out a floor plan for the house?
I actually did. I
Nice.
actually did. Yes, yes. I did a little bit of a SketchUp online and then, pinned all of the images in place of where they would be on my mood board. But yeah, the house, I really wanted the house to feel like a main character, like a character in the book, I should say. So, and that was really important to me. And, what I'm getting from readers is they feel that, which is such an extraordinary feeling to know. So,
Mhm.
So
And
there you go, folks. See the extent that we go to as writers to make it real for y'all right
it's
there.
true. It's so true.
so
So
you had
true.
mentioned that that this isn't the first book that you've written, that you have
Yes.
one that's sitting in a drawer somewhere.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your publishing journey? Like, what was how did you know when you were ready to send this manuscript out to people to review and get feedback on?
Yes. So the first book I wrote, I got an agent probably within 6 months. We went as far as to acquisitions, and we did not sell the book. So we parted ways. And, then I really wanted to take a step back because I knew that I wanted to write another story, but I wanted to write it just for the sake of writing it, not for the purpose of getting published. And I think that took the pressure off a little bit. So I would say I finished the book within 3 months, edited it for an extra month, and then looked for an agent. I ended up finding Rochelle Gardner, who's my agent, and I love her. Um, and we went out on submission. But it did take a little bit of time to find my second agent. I won't sugarcoat that. And then we sold the book probably in about 2 months to Alcove,
Wow.
which was very exciting. But all in all, I would say the journey from book one to here was probably about 5 years.
Hmm.
And this is, what I will say is the writing journey broke my heart for a very long time
Hmm.
because there was an expectation I wanted to sell this book or one of the books so bad that it became like it became who I was. And the minute that I said to myself, if the second book does not sell, I will still be okay. I will still keep writing because I love it. And, maybe it's not meant to be. So I really took a step back and I took the pressure off myself and said, it's okay if it doesn't happen. And then literally it happened. It had probably happened within 2 months of me kind of coming to that realization. And then another thing that I will say is how important it is if you love writing and you love the craft and you love telling stories and you love reading and you love books. And this is something that you want to do. It is definitely a long journey. Um, and the only advice that I can say is just don't give up. Cry, take a break, and then start back up again. And eventually it will lead somewhere because I know that I would not be on this podcast right now if I had given up when it got really
Hmm.
hard. And it did get really hard for a long time. So,
That is so beautifully worded, and I could not
Mhm.
agree more. We hear time and time again from the folks that join us here that it's like if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then it's like you need to look at things to
yeah.
re-examine where you are.
Yeah.
And I think being able to find that passion and have that as your motivator is just like it's such great advice for folks watching and for any aspiring published authors out there. Like that's the way to go. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that with us. That's the a lot of people I think that this is a very like easy journey from
Ah,
start to finish on the outside, and it's just like there's so much going on behind the scenes
It's
that
true.
we have to deal with. So that's very enlightening. Thank you. As we wind down on our moment together this afternoon, we'd love to know because the book is out April 7th. Do
Yeah.
you have any upcoming events online or in person that you'd like to share with our audience members?
Yeah, sure. So my first book event is at the next chapter in Huntington, Long Island, and that's on my pub day, April 7th, which is exciting. So I get to
That's so
celebrate with
cool.
a bunch of people on my pub day. And then the next event is April 12th, and it's actually at a vineyard on the North Fork,
Ooh,
Pellegrini. I know it's, wine and books and conversation. So it's going to be fantastic. All of this is on my website. Then from there, I go to Orlando on the 17th of
oh
April.
wow.
And then from there, I come back. I have a New Jersey Thunder Road Books. That's, I believe, May 30th. Then there's Northport Books in May, and there's also the Trope Bookshop in May. So all this can be found on my
Wow.
website. Yeah, so it's
Excellent.
exciting, really
Wow.
exciting.
That
And
sounds like
what is your website address again then, so we don't miss
Sure.
out on these
Yep.
dates?
It's JenniferO'BrienAuthor.com.
perfect. And we have that information, you guys, in our show notes, so you can see what Jennifer is up to. That sounds amazing. That is like congratulations on
Thank you so
this
much.
amazing book tour that you've got coming up. So much
Hmm.
exciting things that are in store. Oh, I'm so excited for you because and I hope that you get to enjoy every moment of
Thank
it.
you.
Um,
You do
as
too.
we like to wrap up the show by kind of getting from you, Jennifer, if you have any must reads or recommendations for folks to check out. What entertains you these days, or is
Yeah.
there like a particular HGTV show that you're like, I gotta watch this? Any recs that you have for us?
Believe it or not, I don't watch, I know this is probably going to sound crazy, but I don't watch HGTV. I am on
Okay.
Pinterest morning, noon, and night.
Mm-hmm.
But HGTV, I rarely watch it unless
Mm-hmm.
someone tells me that there's a really good episode of something. But I was a big watcher in the past when Chip and Joanna were on. It's just life gets busy and,
Mm-hmm.
you don't, and I'm a big reader, so I do audiobooks. So right now I'm between two books because I always have many going on. So I'm reading Dove by Dove, Paisley Hope, sorry. Dove by Paisley Hope. And there's a book by Lauren Blakely that I'm reading as well. As far as TV shows, I'm pretty obsessed with Love Story right now.
Okay.
That is the John F. Kennedy Jr., Carolyn Bessette show. I think it's on FX.
Mm-hmm.
It just really highlights all of the style and the aesthetic of the 90s. So I'm really loving that part, just before cell phones and before
Mm-hmm.
technology really took off. So I'm really enjoying that as well.
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
it's just they have such a fascinating story. um
Yeah. It
and
is.
Lauren Blakely, she has such great audio, but like her audio productions are
Yes.
so good. I love
This one's a collection. It's a cast.
mm-hmm.
I think it's a guy walked into a bar. I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I'm reading. But the cast is like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah,
So
those are
I'm like,
always
wow,
fun.
I aspire. I aspire to that. So
JC, do you have any new listens or watches or reads that you can share with us?
So to show my age, my wife and I just started watching Riot Women on BritBox. Show
Oh,
of
okay.
5 women of a certain age who have had enough of not being seen and start a punk rock band. So,
Oh,
yeah. So it's totally right in my wife and my wheelhouse. And so it's funny. We've only seen one episode so far. It's funny. It's poignant. It's so far we're loving it. So,
mhm.
what do you got, Sarah?
We are watching, we finally started watching A Night of Seven Kingdoms, which is I don't even
Ah,
know, I guess it's like a Game of Thrones prequel. Took me a long time to want to watch it because I got so burned by how Game of Thrones ended. But it's very enjoyable so far. And I think we're on episode
I've heard about that.
4. So that one, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So yeah. But this has been a delightful conversation, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
We're
you. Thank
very,
you both.
very excited. If you could you hold up your book one more time
Yeah,
before we leave, folks?
of
We've
course,
got
of course.
Yeah.
The Summer I
Yeah.
Found You by Jennifer O'Brien. It is available for pre-order now where books are sold. So make sure that you grab your copy. It's the perfect beach read, and especially with the weather hopefully getting a little
I
bit better, or maybe folks going on vacation to someplace warm and sunny soon. This will be the perfect book to add to your TBR. For us here at A Bookish Moment, we do have another episode coming to you later this week. We're hosting a special Bookish Hour on Thursday, March 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We start streaming. We are going to be live with the Cozy Mystery Crew, where we're performing a dinner theater play for you. And it's going to be so much fun, and we hope that you'll join us for the live performance. But it will be available for you to watch at your enjoyment after we conclude the stream. So that we hope that we see you there. But until then, folks, thank you and stay bookish. Have a good one, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you.